think about childhood, we often imagine innocence, joy, play. But for many, childhood also carries painful experiences that linger long into adulthood. So these past traumas can shape how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, and even lead to lasting mental health struggles. But what if there was a way to truly let go of those memories? Not to erase them, but to release their grip on who we are today. So, on this episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, dear listeners, welcome back to this another show. And in this episode, I'm really honored to welcome Richard Tierney. So, welcome to the show, Richard.
Avik, thank you for having me. Really good to be here.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Richard. So, we all know him, and still, I would love to introduce him. So, he's the founder of Tierney Therapy and creator of groundbreaking 12-step program that aims to help people permanently heal from trauma-based mental health struggles. So his approach is rooted in cause and effect, understanding that the disorders we experience today are often the echoes of past events, and that through safe, focused healing, and we can finally give back the weight that was never ours to carry. So I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Richard, welcome to the show, and it's really, really privileged to explore this with you.
Avik, thanks very much for having me, and thank you for the way you explained it so clearly. I do hope your audience gets some hope from our chat today. And
Definitely.
I came from a place of trauma myself. When I was 12 years of age, I was molested, and it destroyed me.
Mm.
I was filled with such shame and self-loathing. It wasn't that I wanted to die, but I didn't want to live. I shut down mentally and emotionally. So as I grew up into an adult, I was still like emotionally and mentally a 12-year-old child. I seemed to get stuck. And
Yeah.
it was a place I was for most of my young adult life. I was just stuck in this adult body, and I'd be going out with girls. And I wasn't capable of having an intimate relationship with an adult because I was a trapped child within an adult body, really.
Yeah.
So I was behaving in a very dysfunctional way and manner. I couldn't handle my life as an adult. I wanted to keep escaping and disassociating and all that kind of stuff because of what happened to me as a child.
Yeah.
And I'd been to my local doctor, and he prescribed me medication for what he said was I had this depression. When I
Mhm.
realized afterwards what I had was a state of hopelessness
Mhm.
and a state of not being good enough. And because of the hopelessness and not being good enough, it was manifesting in my life with
Mm.
bouts of depression, bouts of stress, bouts of anxiety, bouts of throwing tantrums, bouts of grief and sadness, and all those different emotions were overpowering me. And that was really what I was suffering with.
Exactly. Totally agree with you. And like I'd love to start with this because I really feel like whenever we connect and we talk about these important issues, and today's topic I really connect because I have seen a lot of people having that childhood trauma. Even my friends, I do not want to take the names, but yes, it's there. But uh, so like from there, like you have dedicated your work to helping people heal from the childhood trauma. So I mean, if you can share, like what first inspired you to create this 12-step program, and uh, what gap you saw in the way like traditional therapy approaches trauma?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
I couldn't have put it better myself. So I ended up in therapy, and I had over the period of about 3 years, I had two really wonderful, empathetic, kind, and loving therapists. One
Yeah.
was a man he was about 50 years of age, and the other was a lady about 65 years of
Hmm.
age. And they both were superb in trying to help me
Hmm.
deal with my demons. But the problem was they were treating the bouts of
Yeah.
depression, the bouts of anxiety, the bouts of they were treating how I was coping with this memory as a mental disorder. But how I was coping with
Hmm.
my memory was my best coping skills. They were my best attempts at staying sane with these demons in my mind and in my soul.
Hmm.
And I remember one day I was walking to work. I'm originally from Ireland, and I'm walking to work and down the street. And back then, this is 30 years ago,
Mm.
There weren't very many what we would call now refugees or immigrants, but
Yeah.
there'd been a big bunch of Romanians came over to
Okay.
Ireland, and on the side of the road was this woman with a baby, newborn baby, only a few days old, whatever, living on the side of the road begging.
Mm.
And everyone's walking past her. And I was walking past her, the traffic, the walking traffic kind of got stuck. I was standing in front of her, and she just started pulling on my trouser leg, looking up at me,
Mm.
imploringly asking me to give her some help. And I was under the influence of my medication, depression drugs, and it had such an effect on me that looking at her, she was like nothing to me. No empathy, no thought of consideration for her or her plight. I shook my leg off her and I walked away.
Mhm.
And that evening when I got home and the medication wore off, I felt sort of shame and self-loathing.
Mhm.
I couldn't believe that this medication I was taking to deal with my problems had turned me into a zombie where I couldn't care for another human being. I was thinking that was my sister on the side of the road holding a baby, or my if I had a girlfriend on the side of the road holding a baby, and someone walked her by, I'd be furious. And the fact that I could do that to another human being, I was shocked. So the next day, I went to my doctor and I said I want to come off the medication. It was destroying my soul, and he was completely opposed to me coming off the medication. So I decided to come off it without his consent, cold turkey, and it nearly killed me. I can't believe how strong the medication was. I ended up having to stay at home for about 2 weeks in bed and not go to work. I just was so
Mm.
committed to getting rid of this medication. I was in bed cold turkey. I was having a horrible time, vomiting, nightmares. Everything was coming back in full force. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I was so committed to never, ever treating another human being like that again. That I was
Mhm.
be closed to my emotions. So after about 10 days, it wore off. And everything that I had been suppressing in the previous year with this medication
Mm.
came back to attack me, and it almost destroyed me. It was soul destroying, mind breaking, shame, all the stuff of I'd been suppressing with this medication came full force, and it nearly floored me. It would have floored an
Yeah.
elephant. But I finally I got over that, and I realized I didn't get over it, but I got over that moment for that
Mhm.
one night. I was having nightmares, flashbacks, you name it, horrible stuff. But in that moment, I realized I didn't want to live like this.
Mm.
This wasn't living. This was enduring.
Mhm.
I want to find some way of dealing with this. And I remember I had this sponsor in AA. I developed an addiction to alcohol, an
Mm.
addiction to gambling. And so I ended up joining AA and joining GA and
Mm.
trying to stop drinking, stop gambling, and change my life. And there was
Mm.
a mentor that they call them sponsors in recovery. It's a mentor to guide you about how to live and what to do. I remember one day he
Mhm.
said to me, "Isn't it time to let go of the past?" And I was furious. I was thinking, who do you think you are telling me to let go of the past? Don't you know I'm enough? I was a victim and I suffered all this. And he said, but you can't be a 12-year-old child because you're like a 50-year-old man. And I was shaken to the core. I couldn't believe, I didn't know what he meant.
Mm.
It was the first time I'd ever let anyone outside of my family get close to me and have an intimate relationship where I'd speak to another man and let him
Mm.
give me advice. So it kind of hit me that what he was saying must have some truth in it. So that's what I pursued then was how to understand what he meant by I can't be a child who suffered abuse from a 50-year-old man today. And that led me down my path to this program.
Correct. Wow. So, um, when you say the system is broken, what do you believe? Like we have been missing in how we address the childhood trauma?
But it's very sad. There was a time when you believed your
Mm.
doctors, you believed anyone in mental health professionals that they cared primarily about your well-being. We had a
Mm.
Hippocratic oath. And the belief was that anyone who became any kind of medical professional, they signed a Hippocratic oath saying they'd always put the client first.
Mm.
But now we're seeing across social media that the American government are taking all the pharmaceutical companies to task that they've created vaccines and they've created
Mm.
medications that are destroying children, causing autism, causing ADHD, that the cure is worse than the condition, that they're creating all these medications for business. Not for the well-being of of the client, but for the well-being
Mhm.
of the company to make more profit. And they've gone from caring about people to caring about the bottom pocket, about the lining their own pockets at the expense of their clients. And we still have this terrible idea that we trust our mental health
Mm,
professionals. If our mental health professional diagnose us with a condition, we
mm,
totally believe that they're not lying, that they know the truth. But the honest to
exactly.
God thing is, what they just diagnose us with is the way we coped with the trauma. So
Mm,
if I suffered with nightmares and flashbacks and depression and stress and anxiety from my trauma, they treat the nightmares and the flashbacks and the depression and not the trauma itself. They're treating the effect and not the
mm,
cause. But science tells us if we want to heal and break free from any trauma, we must treat the trauma
mm,
and not the effect. We must treat the cause. But mental health professionals treat the effect. So they keep you in therapy forever. And there's no
mm,
closure, there's no healing. But because you keep treating the mind with your thoughts and feelings and giving you, and then all this medication going to your system, you start developing more and more disorders. You go from having anxiety to having anxiety and depression, and suddenly you have
mm,
bipolar, which is basically all these medications to get all these conditions together. Be multiple disorders. So you have bipolar, or you have PTSD, and then you have complex PTSD. If they also expanding, and if you stay in that groove, you're never ever going to come out of it. But
mm,
the truth is that when we first saw our therapist, we didn't have bipolar, we didn't have PTSD or complex PTSD. We were suffering with hopelessness and inferiority. And that's what needed to be
exactly.
targeted. But the problem with hopelessness and inferiority, there's no money in that because they're not mental illnesses. They are spiritual maladies. They're holes in the souls, and they can only be treated spiritually. And the mental health professional can't treat the spirit, so they claim that they're mental disorders. And that's where the system is broken.
Mm,
But it's my intention that
mm,
we can heal ourselves. So, Avik, imagine, let's say, looking by your picture in the suit, you could be about 35 years of age. So
yeah.
imagine there's a younger Avik who's maybe 12 years of age who suffered a trauma. In my case, I'm a
Mm,
64-year-old man today.
mm,
As a 12-year-old child 50 years ago who suffered a trauma event. But
yeah.
it didn't happen to me because I'm 64 years of age and I only exist in today. So I don't even exist in yesterday. Yesterday I was nervous, apprehensive, and excited about meeting you today. And today I'm here presenting with you. Two
Mm,
different people. One wondering,
yeah.
am I ready to talk to Avik? Have I got
Mm,
my story all lined up? Will I speak slowly and clearly? Will I give enough information to offer hope
mm,
to Avik's audience? And here I am today doing that. Two different people completely. And if I'm the person I am today, I'm not the
yeah.
person I was yesterday. So if I'm the person I am today, I'm not the person I was 50 years ago at the age of 12. So what happened at the age of 12 didn't happen to the person I am today. It happened to a 12-year-old
Mm,
child. So I have to stop saying I was molested because I am a 64-year-old man and I was never molested as a 64-year-old man.
yeah.
And if anyone tried to molest me, I'd kill him. So it wouldn't happen to me and I wouldn't go back and
Mm,
let it happen. So I have to understand I carry the memory of what happened to a 12-year-old child and I carry sympathy pains for him.
mm,
But he suffered it, not me.
exactly. Very true. Very true. I totally agree. Yep. And I mean, that's powerful because it really reframes healing not as a life sentence of therapy. So definitely. And also, you mentioned that children's mental health is deeply tied to these past traumas. So, what are you seeing as the biggest challenges for children today, and how do you believe your approach could change their future?
This particular program I'm talking to you about affects children and adults. And the child within the adult as well. So I'm going to kind of focus more on the adults today, and we can have another chat about the children's program as well. It's slightly different, but this one is full on, where we're talking about basically every person on this planet has suffered with trauma. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but when we're born, I'm a Christian. I don't do church. I don't do denominations. I'm
Mhm,
not a member of any man-made religion. But I believe in the Bible. And I believe that there is a creator, and he created the world in 7 days, and he sacrificed his son for us for our salvation from sin and there's a Christ spirit that came down and touched him to give him the power to do all those miracles, and that same spirit is in each and every one of us, and we could perform those miracles if we believed with enough faith that he was in us. We could do that ourselves. So
mm,
I believe that we need to heal the hole in
mm,
our soul. We have a hole in our soul, and our soul feeds us with our happiness and joy. It's not a mental thing or an emotional thing. That's deep within us that causes us to be happy and joyful. We hear babies crying or
mm,
laughing, and we get the smile when we hear a child laughing or we see a sunset. That's in our soul. That's not a mental thing or emotional thing. When we see a sunset or a sunrise, or we hear a new baby being born, or our football team wins, something inside of us bursts out with joy and we feel elated. That comes from our soul. And when we suffer past trauma that we don't let go of, it eats away at our soul like a
Mm.
hole. Now, people can't see the hole in their soul, they can only see how it manifests in our lives. And the mental health professionals treat how it manifests in our lives. But how it manifests in our lives isn't the problem. The problem is we have
Mm.
a hole in our soul because we're carrying sympathy pains for our younger self, that child that we were 50 years ago, and sympathy pains for them also. But it's not
Exactly.
ours to carry. So the truth is, I wouldn't be standing today if my younger self
Mm.
had been overcome by the trauma. So that tells me that they not only suffered the event, it's not that they endured and survived it, but they overcame it. They defeated it. Because I wouldn't be alive today if they hadn't defeated it. They would have taken their life, they'd be dead. But the fact that I have existence today means they overcame it. And for me to go into the past and open up that grave and take out all his pain and wear it on my body like a cloak and walk around telling everybody that this happened
Yeah.
to me, I'm betraying my younger self and I'm self sabotaging myself because I'm bringing the death, decay, and disease of a dead thing into my present. And it destroys everything it touches and everyone it touches. I see how all my relationships around me are crumbling. All my opportunities are crumbling. All my goals and dreams
Mm.
and aspirations are crumbling. I'm having nightmares and flashbacks. I'm harming myself. I'm filling myself with drugs and alcohol and medication. I'm trying to suppress my feelings because I brought this dead thing into my life and it's eating away at everything in my life. It's destroying my relationship with my wife and my children and my friends and my family and it's just destroying everything. And I have to give it back to my younger self. But the thing is, he can't cross over into the light
Mm.
into the arms of Father until he has all his baggage. And by me bringing it into the present, I blocked him from crossing over. So I have to find a way to give the details back to my younger self, his baggage back to him and
Mm.
let him go. And that's the program I've created is called Trauma Recovery Anonymous. It's a 3 hour healing event. Now, for me to say 3 hour healing event
Mm.
would probably irritate a lot of your audience who've been suffering with PTSD for 10, 20, 30 years, maybe with 20 different therapists, multiple medications and therapies and hospitals. And this guy comes along, an Irish guy saying, I can heal you in 3 hours. You're kind of thinking, this guy must be on drugs. It must be loop the loop. But the truth is,
Mm.
nobody can fix you but you. Until you can have a change of attitude, outlook, perspective, and accept the truth that the past didn't happen to you, no one can help you. But once you accept that truth, then you're ready to give the past back to your younger self. And the giving it back to your younger self takes 2 hours. You're giving it to your younger self mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually through a holistic practice where you feel that
Mm.
you're in the same room with your younger self. You're looking at that 12-year-old child and he's saying to you, Richard, for God's sake, will you please give me back my baggage? I can't cross over into the light until you let me go. I need it back. I can't leave until I have it. Please give it to me. And in that moment, you make a decision to give him all that pain you're carrying and you see him taking it from you and stepping into the light. In that moment, it leaves your body mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually and the weight of your chest and your shoulders and your whole face changes and you can feel the release. And that moment that it's gone, you realize by giving the cause away, now there's no reason to keep the effect. So you're able to unlearn the dysfunctional behavior of the diagnosis of PTSD. And then we take the 12-step program of Trauma Recovery Anonymous to undo those learned behaviors. And there's 12 steps to it. And this 12-step program, I just like to mention this is it was created on the basis of the AA program. Now, the AA program is probably the greatest gift to mankind of the last century. It's a 12-step program for alcoholics to stop drinking and recover their lives. And the success of it, many other groups came in to like NA for drugs and GA for gambling and Al Anon for families of alcoholics and so on. And they came to about 14 groups were created out of using this program. And many have tried to use this program and have failed, but 14 groups have been created that use this 12-step program. So I put together this 12-step program for trauma, and I sent it off to the AA program, asked them for their permission to create a 12-step program. And they checked my workings, and they came back and said they would approve of it. So I am I am the 14th 12-step program in the world, which is a huge thing. I mean,
Mm.
it's just a huge thing. If I do nothing else for mankind but to leave a 12-step program, it'll be it'll be like a milestone because a 12-step program is the greatest gift I can give. So if that's all I do in my lifetime, but to create this 12-step program for others to use. So the 12 steps are basically, the first step is I'm not a victim.
Mm.
People may have hurt me, but they were just doing their own thing to fulfill their own needs. And if I was the victim of them, I wasn't the intended victim. They could have been anyone. I wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. They invaded my space. None of it was my fault. And that's the first thing you learn. And so on. Then there's another 11 steps after that. When you do these 12 steps, you break free of the learned behavior of the diagnosis, whether it's depression or PTSD or whatever. And then you're free of it.
Mm. Mm. Exactly. Wow. I mean, I have to say this that this is such an eye-opening perspective because it challenges that belief that healing must always be long and drawn out. You're opening the door for hope, definitely. Yeah.
But I wish we could say that the therapy practice, the way it is set up for the benefit of the client. But I believe it's set up for the benefit of the mental health industry for making money. If they can keep you tied into revisiting the suffering over and over again, well, then they're going to get therapy fees, they're going to get medication fees, and it's a huge bumper industry. It's the greatest growing industry in the world. If you want a job that's going to pay you for life, become a mental health professional or working in the pharmaceutical company making vaccines and medication, because the with COVID, suddenly about 12 different new disorders came in. There was at home, post-traumatic stress being at home for COVID, post-traumatic stress before COVID, after. They were creating all these different disorders out of this COVID situation. It was hilarious to see these guys suddenly creating disorders, for staying at home. You had to stay at home for work. That's a disorder. You happen to learn to stay at home. They'll give you medication for that. It was hilarious if you saw over COVID the number of disorders created by the mental health professionals by creating a whole new market,
Exactly.
you know? So,
True.
yeah, so very
True.
sad,
Yeah.
So it's got to the stage where, and you see it on now, especially with the American government, they're going after the pharmaceutical companies, and when you see these videos that we see on YouTube and TikTok, whatever, about the American government going after these companies, it is criminal what they've done. Autism is caused by vaccines. A child got as a baby a vaccine and it caused autism in the child for life. This kind of stuff. It's criminal, and we have to realize that these people aren't doing it for our benefit. I'm not saying there aren't good people in the service. There's good people in every single system. There's good people doing podcasts, and there's bad people doing podcasts. There's good people who sell shoes, and there's bad people who sell shoes. It's not a totally healthy organization. The World Health Organization, again, could be held accountable as to there's things been let happen that shouldn't be let happen. With relation to children, would you believe there's 290 million children today diagnosed with mental disorders between the ages of 10 and 19? I got to listen to Ben
Mm.
Shapiro and Jordan Peterson talking about the well-being of children. And the argument was that no one should interfere with children until they're at least 25 years of age. But we have mental health professionals telling 10-year-old children that they have mental disorders because their feelings are mental disorders. Their anxiety and their depression are mental disorders. Their anger is a mental disorder. Their throwing a tantrum is a mental disorder. Their grief and sadness is a mental disorder. And then how they cope with it, like disassociation, that's a mental disorder. Some people have crossed the line and started targeting children at an age before they should even be affected. You think of a child, when they're a young child, 3 or 4 years of age, they're living at home with the parents and they're learning about the feelings. And then they go into play school from the age of whatever it is, 4 to about 9.
Yeah.
And they're learning to be around other children and be teachers, and they're learning new kind of feelings and emotions. And then from 9 to 13, they start doing homework and being responsible and having duties, and the feelings change again. And then from 13 to 19, they're going through puberty and they're being attracted to boys and girls and being asked out on dates and being rejected. And all that feelings thing is changing again. And then they get to 19 and maybe they leave home and go and get a job and they have to stand up on their own 2 feet. And for the next 6 years, till they hit 25, they're learning how to be adults and all those feelings changing again. And if we're targeting children at the age of 10 and blocking them from actually feeling those emotions, we're destroying the future of the human race. The 290 million children who've been diagnosed so far, they're the future of our human race in 40 years' time. They're meant to be our leaders. But if they're being if that's 1/3 of a billion of people, and the population of the world is 8 billion. Can you imagine if they've caused 290 million children, a third of the billion, 1/3 of a billion children to be diagnosed with mental disorders at the age of 10 already? What's going to happen in another 50 years? Will it be half a billion? Will it be a million? It's an absolute crying shame that they would do this and be allowed to target children so young.
Definitely, definitely. I totally agree on this. Wow, lovely. And any advice you'd like to share with the listeners today?
Well, there's four things I want to share with your listeners, if I may. And I'd like to finish off any presentation with this. First of all, I want to say that this program I've created is called Trauma Recovery Anonymous. The Trauma Recovery Anonymous is the 12-step program, and healing any trauma memory is the 2-hour healing event to give the past back to your younger self, the details and baggage of it. As human beings, we're meant to hold on to every memory, but the details of it we're not meant to hold on to. So we give the details and the baggage of it back to our younger self. And then after someone asks you about what happened when you were a child, you say, yeah, what happened to my 12-year-old younger self, it was terrible. I feel deeply for him, but it happened to him. It's none of my business. That's the idea behind that. That's what I do. And both those books are available on Amazon. I'll just put that plug in there. Now, the four things I'd like to share with you. The first one is we all have a tribe. It might be that the family of origin that you grew up in may not be your tribe. You might be a nerd, a geek, a bookworm, an introvert, and your family could be all outgoing extroverts, social animals, and you never fit it in. It's not that you're wrong. It's not that they're wrong. You're just not a fit. Your family are a perfect fit for each other. You just are not a fit for your family. But when you step out into the real world and you get a job and you start your life over as an adult, you'll start
Right.
finding people who know you. And when they find you and they know you, and the other introverts, other geeks, other nerds, other gamers, and other bookworms, when they find you, you'll understand that they accept you as you are, and the feeling of that will be so beautiful that you'll feel so really good because people accept you as you are. That's the first thing. Second thing is to know that accept that you're never a victim. Whatever
Mhm.
happens in your life was never about you. So if my wife divorced me tomorrow, it wouldn't be about me being a bad husband. It'd be about
Mm.
her fulfilling her needs to have her needs met. In some way, I'm not fulfilling her needs, so she wants to find someone to fulfill her needs, and that's why she wants a divorce. It's not about me, it's about her. If my boss wants to fire me, again, he picked me to work for him in the
Mm.
first place. If he's firing me, it's not about me. It's about him wanting a job done,
Yeah.
and I'm not able to fulfill that for him. So he's going to find somebody to fulfill the needs for him. So in
Right.
every situation, accept you're not a victim, and if you can do that from this day forward, your life will be transformed. The third one is know that there's higher powers everywhere. So here
Mm.
on Avic's channel, and when he has all these different people on for his podcast, you're learning new things, and hopefully you're being filled with hope. Like tonight, I'm hoping you're going away from this podcast feeling full of hope from my words and my advice and my suggestions and other podcasts. And you can go onto YouTube and Spotify and TikTok, and you'll see videos and clips that really will be profound. Like I love Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. I listen to them as often as possible. They got tremendous messages about recovery and healing and that. And I love it. There's a number of different guys you'll find on YouTube, and there's all those meditation tapes on YouTube are wonderful. So there's loads of higher powers out there you can always tap into. If you feel you can't talk to your family or you can't talk to your boss or your partner, I remember I was telling somebody recently, I was flying back to Ireland from Thailand,
Mm.
and I had to leave my wife and children behind. I was go back for business, and I got to the airport in Singapore, and halfway over, and I wasn't feeling too good in myself, and I knew I needed to talk to somebody, and I had no one to talk to. So I went over to this person sitting there reading the paper. I went over and I said, "Can I talk to you?" And he had enough to say yes, but I didn't think he had any English. And he looked at me, and I talked to him for 10 minutes, giving me all my spiel about all my fears of leaving my wife with my newborn baby, and what's going to happen in Ireland. And then he said, "I've got to go now." And he went off to his plane. And I felt relieved that I got to vent. But maybe he was Japanese. He didn't speak a word of English, but I got to feel I was heard. There's times when I walk my wife's dog. When I'm out for a walk, I walk the wife's dog. When I'm walking the wife's dog, I talk to the dog. I give him all my crap about how my day's going. He's oblivious, but he takes it all in, and then he comes back and he goes to bed. And I'm thinking, I've been heard. So no, you can always use a dog. You can. When I was younger, I used to hug trees, and I talk to the trees. I'm hugging the tree. Whatever works for you, you do. The responses to danger are fight, flight, freeze, and acceptance. And hugging trees was a fight response to me. Speaking to strangers, speaking to my dogs was a fight response. Freeze was to disassociate. If I was in company and I didn't feel safe, but I couldn't run away and I couldn't hide, I would just leave my mind and leave the building. I'd go off into my fantasy and in my dream world and leave the room mentally and emotionally and go somewhere and have a fantasy for 10 or 15 minutes. When the danger passes, I come back into my body. It's perfectly okay if that works for you. You do that. So always know there's higher powers all around you. And the final one is accept there is a God. And if you don't like the term God, you can use Richie's God. And tonight you can say, okay, I don't believe in God, but Richie says his God will do for him what I want. So I'm going to ask God, Richie's God for 10 minutes of peace of mind now. Take all my demons from me for 10 minutes. And then sit there and see what happens. When you find that the demons are gone for 10 minutes, kind of, okay, I tried this for a night's sleep. I give all my demons to Richie's God for the next 8 hours of peaceful sleep. Thank you very much.
Right.
Get to bed and you find you sleep for 8 hours. You're kind of going, this is fantastic. I'm going to look into this God business more. I'd probably keep using Rich's God for now, but I can find my understanding of God for me that works and just give him my crap at night time and get good night's sleep. And then during the day, I can give him 10 minutes here or 5 minutes there or half an hour there, or an hour there. And you learn to live in the day only. And the last thing about that, if you can learn to allow God into your life and you give him your 8 hours of sleep at night time, you only have to deal with 16 hours through the day then. So your whole life comes down to 16 hours in front of you. That's it. Not the past, not the future, just the 16 hours in front of you. Avi, thank you for letting me share so much. I feel I'm not leaving you a chance to get a word in edgeways.
I totally appreciate because whatever we discussed, it's not only about that we are discussing, but I totally feel like from here, listeners will be able to get some learning and make it into their life. And I really happy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for all the listeners, like if you or someone you love is struggling with the weight of past trauma, know that there are new approaches, new tools, and new hope. Explores Richard's work at Tierney Therapy and his YouTube channel to learn more about this 12-step healing program. So that's really great. And with this hope, until next time, dear listeners, I'll mention everything into the show notes for you, easy reference. And this is your host, Avik, reminding you that a healthy mind and a healthy life begin the moment we decide to stop carrying what was never ours to hold. So thank you so much.
Avi, thank you very much. God bless you all.